The first sound Evren heard was the soft whisper of curtains in the breeze. He opened his eyes slowly. The sheets beneath him were too soft, the air too still. The room glowed with early morning light, pouring through sheer fabric, gold-tinted, gentle, quiet. It disgusted him. He sat up in bed, slowly. His body ached, not from injury, but from stillness. He'd slept longer than he wanted to. He scanned the room again. Nothing had changed. The table was neatly arranged. Fresh fruit, bread, and the same untouched wine from last night. A folded robe lay on a polished stool near the foot of the bed, beside a basin of water and a small ivory comb. The mirror, as always, stood tall and quiet. This wasn't a prison, but it wasn't freedom either. Evren rose and walked barefoot across the cool floor. He didn't eat. He didn't wash. Instead, he began to test. He pressed the tips of his fingers against the walls, one panel at a time. He checked the windows, thick glass, high frames, 2 stories up. Not impossible, but not easy. He moved slowly through the chamber, lifting every object, noting weight and edges. A silver hairpin in the drawer, a sharp clasp on the robe, a flaw in the floor tile near the hearth. Everything had a purpose. He just had to wait for the moment to use it. He moved to the window and sat quietly in the alcove. 2 guards stood just outside the garden wall, still and silent. At exactly the same moment as yesterday, a servant walked by, carrying linens. Same route, same pace. He smiled. Patterns meant weakness. The longer he stayed in this room, the more of the palace would become his map, then his weapon. He returned to the mirror to study. Behind him, in the reflection, he caught something new. A hairline crack in the wall frame near the bottom corner, barely visible. Maybe a flaw in construction, or maybe something else. He crouched near it, ran a finger along the crack. It was slightly hollow underneath. He didn't touch it again. A knock at the door broke the quiet. Evren straightened, smoothing his robe. He kept his expression still. He didn't ask who it was because he already knows. The door opened without ceremony, with no guards and no announcement. He didn't knock this time. Kael, stepping inside like he owned the room, because technically he did. Evren didn't move. Kael glanced around, taking in the stillness. "You haven't touched the wine." Evren tilted his head slightly. "Not in the habit of drinking gifts from my enemies." Kael stepped closer, stopping just short of the table. "If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't use wine." Evren smiled faintly. How thoughtful. Kael poured himself a glass anyway. He didn't sit, just sipped, slowly, watching Evren over the rim. "I was told you haven't left the eastern wing, and yet somehow I feel watched." "You are." Kael's tone was easy, as if they were discussing the weather. "But I meant it when I said you're free to walk. I'm not interested in cages." Evren moved toward the table, picking up a grape and rolling it between his fingers. "That's not true. You like cages. You just make them look like rooms." Their eyes met across the fruit bowl. Kael set the glass down. "Is that what this feels like to you?" Evren laughed once softly. You dress me in silk, feed sweet things and say it's freedom. But the walls and the guards are keeping an eye on me. And the man holding the keys still visits without knocking. A long silence passed. And Kael said, "You sound like your father." Evren went very still. Kael continued. He hated silence too. He filled every room with speeches, talks of legacy, strength, and pride. He looked down at the wine, and none of it saved him. Evren's voice was calm. Neither did yours. The room cooled. Kael didn't flinch. "You've done your reading." "No," Evren said. "I lived through your war. That was lesson enough." Kael looked at him for a long moment, then turned and began walking slowly toward the window. This place was built to outlast both our fathers. Evren followed him with his eyes. "And why are you here? To remind me how little of mine remains?" Kael looked out into the gardens. "No, I'm here because I want something that does." Evren said nothing. Kael turned back. "You spoke 10 languages by the time you were 15. You studied at the Grand Academy of Neuron before it fell. You were raised in a court that believed knowledge was power, and yours doesn't? Mine believes power is power, but it's tiring." He gave a small smile. "And I'm trying something different." Evren crossed his arms. "So this is your new experiment? Keep a prince in your house and see if he'll sing?" Kael's voice dropped. "No, I'm offering you something better than singing." He stepped closer again. "Be my advisor, not officially, no titles, but speak in council when asked. Represent your people, correct the fools who believe you're finished." Evren stared at him. "And in return?" he asked. "You stay alive," Kael said. "You get your books, your mirror, your time, and you get to matter again." Evren gave a slow, soft laugh. "You mistake silence for defeat." "I don't," Kael said. "I just know what hunger looks like, even behind calm eyes." He turned to leave, but at the door he paused. "Say yes, and the mirror stays. Say no, and I'll replace it with a wall." Then he left. Evren didn't move for a long time. He looked down at the wine glass Kael had left behind, half full and warm, but he didn't touch it.